Are we right to continue? Okay, we're up to slide 10, the own source operating revenue ratio. And this ratio is what shows you council's reliance on outside funding. So how much revenue do you generate yourselves versus how much you get from funding bodies? As you can see, council has consistently been below the OLG benchmark of 60%, and this is predominantly due to your reliance on constituent council contributions as well as your WAP funding that we were just discussing before.
Yes, I think we all appreciate that.
Yeah, I can tell from your discussions just before, like you understand the position that council's in and the difficult future, I guess, you've got ahead, trying to not be so reliant on that funding and to come up with other sources of income, but that doesn't happen overnight either.
Fly helicopters.
Yeah.
Speaking at me and saying he's got it in hand.
Yes, sounds it. Okay, the next slide is in relation to that unrestricted current ratio, and as you can see, you're well above that year on year. Following that is your cash expense cover ratio. So this ratio looks at it's a liquidity based ratio, and it indicates the number of months a council can continue to pay for its immediate expenses without any additional inflow from cash. The OLG sets that benchmark at 3 months, and you're well exceeding that benchmark as well. You're in a strong liquidity position.
So if we have to look at that in the nature of if we don't know what the future holds in the 19th of September with a budget for WAP funding, but you know that may come into play in our determinations following that.
Exactly.
So this, Katie, would include aerial operations and roadside. It's in the number of months, because if you just looked at our employees and running the staff and rental and the vehicles, we probably have about 24 months worth of so I assume that this rate
this is running as business as usual, I'm assuming. Business as usual, they're running the aerial program and the roadside program, because that's how they work.
Without receiving revenue on the other side is the.
That's right. This is your operating expenses.
I think it's us.
Sorry, it froze for a bit there. Can you hear me all right now?
Okay.
Yeah, this ratio is in relation to just your general operating expenses and your ability to cover those over a month period, like monthly periods. So as you can see there, 2023, with your current cash position, you could continue to operate for another 9.4 months on your existing cash position. So no further income, and just with your regular operating expenses, your day-to-day operating expenses, that's what this ratio is showing,
I think,
which
Katie,
is a strong position.
Katie, Bruce was making the point that if we cut out the aerial program and our roadside spraying, etc., and it was just keeping basically our staff and our minimal activities running, we could probably go for a longer period than that, because they're quite expensive.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I did miss that bit, and that's
calculations, or roughly, yes.
Okay, yes, yeah. If you were to strip out expenses and just keep it at bare bones, then yes, you would go longer than this.
Out the order, right?
Unqualified.
Yes, that's the key one you want. So the final slide is just in summary, our audit findings. We've issued an unqualified report on your general purpose financial statements, which is a great result. All other reporting and disclosure obligations, have been satisfied. Lisa lodged your financial statements on the 7th of September this year, which is still very early. I know It looks later than last year, but it's still very early. The management letter was issued with no high risk comments in there. And once again, we'd like to extend our thanks to Lisa and Tim for another smooth audit. And like I said, the 7th of September, whilst it's not as early as prior years, is still very early. So it's a great reflection of the good working relationship that we've got going on.
I think again, Kate, it's worth noting, it's sad that that relationship is ending.
I know. It's very much out of our hands, and we wish that we had a bit of a rebuttal position or somebody that we could go back to ask why, but unfortunately that's not how the audit office operates. And you know, we're losing a couple of our good clients, to be honest.
Yeah. Katie, we got a response from the audit office about why.
Oh, did you?
Yes, they admitted to us that they were bringing down some costs and having to return some of the auditing back internally, and it was done on a cost basis. So I think they've just got some bad news about the state budget.
Right. Yeah, well, I can guarantee you, Tim, well, not guarantee you, I shouldn't say that, but I would be surprised to see if your audit fee cost goes down any with them bringing it in-house. I think you could nearly...
I've asked them twice, Katie, what's the cost for the audit office to do our audit next year, and they're unable to respond at this stage.
Yes, they'll be unable to respond.
So have they just picked basically county council?
They've picked an area.
No.
Wales, which is the central area of New South
Local
Wales.
hasn't got that
One or
because I had a direct meeting this week with Ron Gillard and we discussed it. And I told him, Ron, that Upper Macquarie had got the letter that the audit office were taking it on. He was aware of that. Any other council got things learned? Others, Lithgow? Thanks, sir.
Yeah, my understanding is that when you lodge your financial audited statements, that might trigger some communication from the audit office for you.
I think so as well, Tim, because we're well advanced with Parks Shire Council and they've also received a letter. So we're losing Parks and we're losing Upper Macquarie as far as we're aware at the minute.
Yeah, well, the advice we got was there's a block of communities in the central part of New South Wales, and that's all travel. And they're all going to the audit office.
Yes, it's quite disappointing.
Very disappointing.
All right, members, item 3 of the finance. Is there any questions for Katie at this stage?
No, I think we should thank her though.
Thank you very much, Katie.
Thanks, Kate.
For all your work.
Yes.
Officially.
You're welcome.
And if we could I have a mover? Member Leslie?
Yes.
Thanks. Member Smith, thank you. A vote of, and the recommendation will be a vote of thanks for Katie Henry carrying out the audit for 22-23.
Can I suggest a letter, Mr.
On the
Chair?
Upper Macquarie County Council, and that will be followed up by the General Manager with a letter of thanks.
Yeah.
All in
Thank
favour?
you.
Aye.
The next item is the recommendation that council will enable a note of presentation provided by the Audit Office New South Wales Contractor Audit Manager, Ms. Katie Henry from Intendus. Can I have a mover, please? Member Smith. Member Leslie, seconding. Thank you. All in favour? Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and apologies again about the mishap with the presentation and my terrible internet connection.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. I don't think we have any other business, do we? So the meeting, I declare the meeting closed at 2:46 p.m. And the next meeting is
We're workshopping.
next workshop, and we do have a meeting.
November.
November.
Okay.
Thanks, November.
I think it was the 3rd.
Thank you. I'll leave you guys
Next
to
meeting will be
it.
in
Thanks
accordance
very
with the
much.
meeting schedule.
Thank you.
As circulated
Bye.
at the last meeting.
So yeah.
Thank you.
3rd of November.
First on the agenda is the acknowledgement of country. Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands where we work and live. Council celebrates the diversity of Aboriginal peoples and their ongoing cultures and connections to the lands and waters of the New South Wales Central Tableland. Members and the public are reminded that the proceedings of this meeting, other than any confidential matters, which I don't think there are today, will be reported and made publicly available on the council website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statement. Item 1 is apologies. I don't think we have any apologies, so we don't have to accept any. Item 2 is disclosure of interest. Council members are reminded of their obligations of the Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. If any members had any declaration of interest, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, could they do so now? Are there any disclosures of interest, members? No, there are none. I'd like to now invite Katie Henry to provide us a presentation, please, on our financial accounts. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for those of you who I haven't met yet, I've met a couple. I'm Katie Henry. I've been an audit manager with Intentus for going on 8 years now. So I've worked a long time with Leanne and John O'Malley prior to that. But this is my first year with Central Tableland's Weeds Authority. So I've got a presentation there, which I believe Lisa has shared with you all, or have we got that up, Lisa?
No, sorry, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Leanne normally just pops it up by sharing it. Let me see if I can get to it, or are you?
Oh yeah, I can just share my screen if that's how you
Yeah.
run it. That's
Is
fine.
that okay? Sorry, I should.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I hope my internet is strong enough. Did that work?
Yep, and if we could start slideshow, it would make it even bigger, I think.
Yeah, great. And it's just taken it off onto the other screen.
Huh.
Sorry, guys. Bear with me. How's that?
That's not showing.
It's
It's showing your presentation mode.
in presentation mode, that's it, yeah. Just.
For some reason, it keeps popping up on my dual screen, and I know what I'll do. I'll just.
Here, if you get into the bottom right next to the.
You just click from the beginning out, it should be right.
Can see it.
Yeah, if you click from the beginning, it should be okay.
In the top left-hand corner? From beginning?
It's showing from the beginning on mine.
Oh.
Has it changed? Maybe there's a delay in sending it through. Has it gone?
Kate, if you're,
Is it just not getting full screen, or we're just not seeing?
that's the problem, we're not seeing the full screen.
Not seeing the full screen, I think is the problem. We can all move up to the front of the room if it's easier.
I can see the graphs,
You have it, Lisa.
Yeah.
Projected,
the bar graphs.
might be easier.
I'm sorry about this. I can. It's got it up on slide.
No, you're on the way.
Right?
You've got it.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's a delay. It's probably my end with my internet because yeah, sorry, I've had it up there. Okay, great.
Pick up the job.
Sorry,
Looking good now.
Good, big.
we're good. Okay. Excellent. So I was just going to run through the main points of your financial statements. you've got an operating result higher than your prior year there. You've got a decrease in your user charges this year, and the main reason for that is one of your main chemicals that was not available for sale during the year. That decrease was offset by an increase in aerial spraying works as well, which is represented through an increased fees and charges and the increase in the land area that was sprayed. Your better result is also impacted by a decreased expenditure with your roadside spraying. And this is predominantly due to bringing your aerial spraying in-house, your roadside spraying in-house, with the contractor's expenses going down significantly year on year, as you can see with those numbers, and the employee expenses only increasing by the 49K. So you've made some significant savings there. This slide just shows graphically your operating result over the last few years. It's the two different colours represent before capital and after capital, grants and contributions, which obviously is one and the same for you guys. With your consolidated revenue expenditure, this again is another graphical depiction of it. So as you can see, it's reasonably consistent with your revenue and your expenditure over the last 5 years. This slide shows your operating revenue by source and over that 5-year period and where your big ticket item movements are. You've got your user charges and fees back in 2021 with your aerial spraying program as a standout item there. Everything else is reasonably consistent year on year. You can't really see predominantly in that graph, but I will just point out your interest revenue has obviously seen a large increase in comparison to other years there, and that's in relation to your rates. So we would expect to see that sort of movement.
Well,
This
just
slide
quickly on
shows
that
you.
one, Katie,
Yes.
the grant contribution is the concerning one. We've had a terrible thing called inflation, which you know about.
Yes.
But you look there, the grant contribution is absolutely flat. Well, it's come down from 5 years ago and it's just flat across there, which is that's really where
That's exactly right.
Our biggest problem.
It's not increasing with the associated costs of running your business. Okay, and so your operating expenses by type here, we've got some movement in your materials column there, which, as I had explained in the first slide, bringing your aerial spraying program in-house has decreased your contractor's expense significantly, and that's impacted that category of materials.
I think that's the roadside in-house, not the.
Sorry, I do keep saying aerial. And I've got aerial there as well. Apologies for that. That should say roadside.
We don't want to bring the aerial in-house, it's too risky.
No, exactly. That's right.
Piloting the plane could go anywhere.
Yeah. Yes, you don't want that responsibility. With your other category, that outlier there back in 2019 was a change in the category. So we've left that commentary there to explain that as well. This graph just shows how your total cash and investments have been tracking over the last 7 years, 8 years. So as you can see, you've been on a steady incline there, and 2022 to 2023 is just a slight dip, which I will explain in one of the next slides. Again, cash and investments, this is in relation to your restrictions. So the really dark colour is your external restrictions, what the organisation has restricted through, say, grant fundings that you must spend that money on. Your internal restrictions is your light colour, and the lighter blue is what is unrestricted. So you've got a very healthy position there. Your operating performance ratio, The benchmark from the OLG is 0.
Sorry, Katie, can I just ask a question? When we get our roadside funding from our councils and Eddie or Lisa, we put that in as restricted or unrestricted? Restricted, I'm assuming, because it's confined to roadside purposes. Is that right? No, it's unrestricted, is it?
It's unrestricted because it's to do with the way that you generally operate your business. So the restricted would be if you had a grant that was specifically for providing an item of service that wasn't your typical type of operation, or if capital is always a really good example, which I understand that you guys don't handle a lot of capital grants and contributions, but if you were given money to build a particular asset or to purchase a particular item, then that is restricted. You've got no say in how that is spent.
But if is WAP funding considered restricted?
It is, but it's usually spent in full at the end of the year. So that's why it doesn't show up in this, in the restricted and unrestricted cash and investment. So if you've fully expended the money by the end of the year, it's not going to show up in this particular bundle, if you like. But if you've got some money still yet to be spent, it would be considered restricted for that purpose.
So we've got quite a large restricted. That's why I'm asking the question. I would have thought to have that amount, we would have had to have some WAP funding. And that's why I was wondering if the roadside spraying amounts that the councils allocate just for roadside spraying would be considered restricted.
So you've got a large internally restricted. Sorry?
Sorry, because we can't, they give us two amounts. They give us the general amount, the councils, and an amount that's basically controlled for spraying roads. So I would have thought that maybe that was considered, it would be considered a restricted amount.
So it would be considered in your internally restricted amount because you've set that aside to run your operations, but the externally restricted, if I pull up.
It's internally restricted?
Carry on. So,
Sorry.
so what it's managed through the QBRS and the budget. You can see it managed through there. So it's spent in that 12 months. So that's why it's not popping up on the cash on the balance sheet. It's
Because you've spent it.
But
Before.
if we had a situation where we were carrying some over from one year to the other.
Then it may be showing up.
Yes.
Maybe
If you
so.
had,
Yeah.
if you had
Okay.
unspent, if you had unspent funds at the end of the year, it would be considered externally restricted. But if you've spent it all within the year, it doesn't form part of this graph.
So the only externally restricted is that book that's been sitting on our books for about
That's
5
it,
years.
Bruce.
It's
Yep.
just sat there and sat there. So it's there's no change in it. It sits there every year.
It looks as though it's gone up though.
Do you mean the black?
No, the externally restricted is actually.
Maybe I'm making the wrong one. It's very hard for us to see up here what, so this restricted is the black, is it?
Yeah.
Externally
Yes.
restricted is
Externally restricted is the black.
Internally is the grey.
right. And you see that it's dropped because we
Yes.
bought the motor vehicles.
Yes.
And we, as in the amount, and we need as a county council, but Katie can't get into this discussion and we discussed it at ARIC. We need to look at our internal restrictions and see if we need to increase the internal restrictions to purchase more motor vehicles, etc. But most of our internal restrictions are for, and it was David Young that put it on the books, was for carrying on business for the next 12 months, that we had enough cash to pay our employees, I think it was, or something like. The general manager may know more, but so they're the two. I think there might be another category as well.
We have, we actually have a reserves policy where we put away certain amounts into, I think that's 5, internally restriction.
We did that when David was here.
That's right, yeah. So we can go back and review that if necessary at a later time.
But we need to probably come to the next meeting with a look at our internal restrictions. And
Look at our change then our reserves.
Particularly, yeah, that's a good idea because we've got that PBRS together anyway, so I think it's a good time.
Okay, sorry, Katie, but that generated a good discussion.
Yes, no, that's fair enough. Sorry, I didn't think to, on my screen, the colours are shades of blue. So obviously that's not transferred through to your screen exactly as per the colours
Yeah, black,
that I
brown,
see.
blue.
So that's handy to.
That light one, not blue.
Also, those of us up the back here, it's a bit, even with our glasses, long range glasses, it's a bit hard to see.
Same like for you, so
far away. Yeah, maybe we should move to the front.
To the front of the class, mate.
That's all right.
Get some binoculars back. Moving on, sorry. Kate.
Sorry. Sorry, I think that's my internet. Sorry about that. Is it okay now?
Yeah, perfect.
It's clear.
Okay, great, great.
It's green, yeah.
Sorry.
Not really. Everything's gone red, green, it's because we're the Weeds Authority.
Oh, I see.
Is that enough? She's gone. I know this.
She's frozen.
She's back.
Proceed, Katie, thank you.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, it keeps cutting in and out, and now I think I've lost the connection with sharing my screen with you again. Just give me 2 seconds, just a second.
Intriguing to think that's
Intent stuff.
completely different transition of colour.
Is that better? Are we on the operating performance ratio now?
Perfect, thank you.
Excellent. I don't know why I just did a reboot of my router, and sometimes that works. So fingers crossed that helps the situation. So the operating performance ratio, as you can see, you're well above the OLG benchmark of 0 in 2023. Just one thing that I'd like to point out with this, with your ratios, is just to remember that due to your small size, that very small dollar movements have big percentage movements. And so, I don't know if that worked me. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the slideshow moving along again. I do apologise about this. My internet is not playing ball.
We Telstra in the bush.
Yeah, we're a good case for it not being strong, aren't we?
Starlink,
Do you have Starlink again?
I do,
Is it all right?
fantastic.
Really?
Still get a bit of shuddering occasionally, but it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ran a mobile phone through it. That's an outing.
Yeah.
But it worked brilliantly.
Oh, I've got Wi-Fi calling around the house.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't use your landline anymore? Yeah, of course you do.
Not just because I'm not at school. It's a better.
Lisa, sorry to interrupt, guys. Lisa, I might get you to try and perhaps put it up at your end.
Yep.
I'm not able to get it going again.
Sounds like me first in the
And
morning.
the kids can be streaming 2 different movies and I can be working on the computer. and it's
Fine. Yeah.
Really?
Henry streamed something, Claudia streamed something.
Don't forget this is being recorded, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Ah!
it could all be a lot.
Yeah, I could be add my little cool piece to it. Little hand grenades.
Great, get your email.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
Oh, not too bad.
I had to go with him.
Yeah. Sorry. Then you called up there. Pretty good last Friday. This week will be good. Getting good frost there in the morning. Yeah, we haven't had too many here. Portland, we might get a bit of a bit of a cold snap with the rain. Yeah, last week. Yeah. Apart from that, I think it's going to be about 27 this weekend. I heard him say that as I was coming down. It's going to get a bit warm. I can speak for that too, but I can't speak. I'd say it'll be a bad year for bushfire. Sorry. It could be a bad year for bushfire. Yeah, that's the worry, isn't it? Yeah, if we get warm weather and plenty of rain, it's good growth, but it's where you pay for it or not. Well, we've had massive rain and growth down there for the last 3 years. Everything that wasn't is higher than the ceiling.
Have you got it there, Lisa, or do you want me to resend it to you?
And it's not, it's just freezing every time.
Yeah, I don't, it's not a big file, so I'm not sure why it's having so much trouble, but it's really not running smoothly.
Even my phone's going crazy. It's not, my phone's frozen as well. So I was going to try and.
Lisa, can I suggest we throw one at the printer? Can we get that? And we just run it around the table and we can. That's all it is.
I could run your, can I use your laptop
Yes.
in your room?
Yep.
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry, guys.
Have a recess, if
Do you
that's
want
all
to
right.
pause the recording?
And we can pause the recording.
Yep.
Just put
You might even go from that copy.
Microphone.
Come back to you in a moment, Katie. We'll get some hard copies on the table and then we'll come back to it.
Thanks so much, Tim. Sorry about this.
Right, you're right.
It's not the stuff that was sent around this morning.